You ready for cocktails and conversation? This is Herspiration Happy Hour.
Oh, happy Wednesday, and welcome to another episode of Herspiration Happy Hour. This is season 5. You know what? At first, I had the episode in my head, but I don't remember what it is now, so you have to forgive me. This is your unapologetic diva, Dr. G.
This is Dr. Cortina Lewis, aka the girlfriend therapist. I have it next season. It's gonna be down. It's gonna be together.
She got it, y'all. She got it. And this is Louisa Harrell, I ain't even got it. The Blue Phoenix. The Blue Phoenix. Hi, lady.
Hello.
Okay, so apparently you all need a little cocktail. So tonight we have the grapefruit Aperol Spritz. You need 4 ounces of Prosecco or champagne, 3 ounces of Aperol, 2 ounces of freshly squeezed pink grapefruit juice, 1 ounce of soda water, half a teaspoon of simple syrup, ice, and grapefruit slice for garnish. So what you do is fill a large wine glass with ice. You layer in the champagne, the Aperol, and the grapefruit juice. Then you add the simple syrup and soda water, and you mix it gently because you want to have like a kind of like an ombre orange type of color in a way. And then you garnish it with a grapefruit slice, edible flowers, or citrus twists.
That sounds pretty.
So kind of like like
edible flowers, and it's gonna be all.
Sounds sweet to me.
Well,
it's 1 teaspoon of on simple syrup, and grapefruit juice is not sweet.
Oh, because I don't drink anything with grapefruit juice. I don't like it. It has like a weird aftertaste to me.
Oh, I love me some ruby red.
Me too.
So you know what? Let me just tell you about this one here. So I was in Orlando last week. I was there for a conference, but then I also went, because I got to hang out with her, because I hadn't hung out with her since the wedding, and we really don't, because she lives so far, we never really get a chance to hang out. Let me just say, so first of all, she said we're going to tailgate. So I'll start with that one. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go tailgate. This was not tailgating. This was like a Freaknik, but upscale for college. So it was like educated Freaknik with like a hint of hood. You know what I'm saying? But it was so much fun. I'm telling you, I said, you know what? I'm gonna be going to the Florida Classic every year because that's gonna be my thing. I so enjoy it. But here's the downside. The upside, but the downside. Oof. I'm telling you, by the time I got to my hotel, and I got there last Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, I wasn't in my hotel. Friday, Saturday, I was. I got dressed Friday morning, and I'm telling you, I could barely get in my pants. I have never eaten so much ever. I like to order a single meal, maybe a soup or a salad to go with it. She got to try everything. And I'm eating my food, and they're still bringing plates to the table. Well, who had this? I'm like, well, I didn't. Everywhere we ate. I'm like, what is wrong with that? And I told her, I was like, girl, why are you ordering so much food? And it's just be for her. It's not like, and then she ordered to-go plates for her family. And I'm like, you mean to tell me they're not going? It was just a lot.
I like the taste.
Yeah, clearly she likes to taste everything. So she's like, well, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try this. Let me get them wings. Let me get this also. I'm telling you, she was like, you got to try this. Let me get the calamari. And it was literally like that every single time we ate out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like to cook at home. And she's like, oh, girl, I don't cook.
I go out every day.
She go out every. And I was like, I can't. Oh my gosh! So she's over there eating right now, which I'm sure if she's going to pick up food, I don't know if it's different. But all I know is going to eat out with her, you have to like not have eaten all day long in order to be able to hang. Because I was like, I'm just going to have I had my duck and I had a soup. Or I had a salad, or I was ordering one thing, and I wasn't even eating all of mine. but they don't really have much food going back unless she's really tasting like she did at the Thai restaurant. So I just thought that was just like, absolutely. We had so much fun, but the Florida Classic, y'all, that's all I can say. Y'all, you can go back and check out Mariah. LaWanda, you definitely you want to go. You want to go. It's when is it? You said it's like the weekend.
It's always the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Bring good walking shoes.
Yes.
When I left, I had to have. I got to the airport early enough to get a 20-minute foot massage. She said, "Sign up for next year." You have to sign up. We just went.
I guess she's saying sign her up.
Oh, okay. See, look at there. I don't have.
They have a lot of different, lot of activities going on in the city.
Walk. That song. Walk. That's all. You are walking and you are eating. And let me just say this too, while I am on camera, and I'm here. I didn't get my candy apple.
Oh Lord, here we go again.
Really?
Mm-hmm. We passed them all by because she was like, "Well, we're gonna get it on the way out. We go because we don't want to carry anything because we have to walk and eat." And I didn't get my candy apple. And I told her, I was like, "Didn't get my candy apple." They was running out of stuff.
Everything.
And then y'all, we sat for 51 minutes in traffic going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic is off the chain. So you have to go kind of early to, one, get everything, and two, leave before the game ends if you want any way of getting out.
Yes.
Because I thought DC traffic was bad. I thought LA traffic was bad. Hell, I thought the Philippines traffic was bad. Nothing. I have never seen driving like this.
They blocked the whole street.
That is hilarious.
A four-lane highway that had two going and two coming was all one way going, that the police had to get involved and have the other people turn around because they were blocking traffic.
Then people was cutting people off, cars this way, we trying to go this way.
But it was fun, and I ate good, and I got my steps in. I said my 4 little steps, I was getting it in. So wear good walking shoes, not flip-flops, not heels, but wear some good walking shoes because you have to be comfortable. And if anybody knows where you can get a stand-up tray that just attaches to your body, get that. And I want to know, because I said either that, I'm going to have to create one because you have to stand up and walk and eat. So it would be nice to just be able to strap a table onto you, like a flip out, and then you just prop your food right in front of you and eat.
Yeah. That would be very creative and beneficial.
Yep. So somebody can steal my idea. I'm fine with them stealing it. Just create it so I can buy it and just enjoy eating, because that's all you're really going to do out there is walk and eat. And I don't even know if it's illegal to sell alcohol the way they were selling alcohol out there. People just had wagons pulled up with some wood on top, and they had the liquor bottles sitting on top with cups. Never seen nothing like it.
Oh my God. It's a tailgate like no other. I told my husband, he was like, I've been tailgating plenty of times. I said,
this is not tailgating.
Not like this. You haven't. So,
yeah.
It's a good time.
It's such a good time. Like it's already on my calendar block because that's when I'm going to do my birthday, because my birthday is around that time every year. So I'm going to just kind of forfeit like right on my birthday and let that be my birthday trip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's such a good time. So ladies, are you all ready for Thanksgiving?
I am ready for a day of thanks. I do not celebrate the day of slaughter, but I do celebrate slaughtering this plate that I'm about to make. Now, you saw my prayer that I put on there.
Child, she lost me at low vibrational plate or something. And I was like, did she say low vibration?
Did you see the thing about Coach Stormy? She was saying that's a low vibration plate or whatever. Child, take me low. Take me to hell. I don't care how low vibrational the plate is. I want all of that.
I can't. I cannot with you.
Give me all of it, please. I would greatly appreciate all of that.
Yeah, see, I don't really celebrate either. Mostly because we celebrate Christmas. We've never really been big on Thanksgiving, so I never really celebrated. I might go eat. I don't eat, but
Oh,
I
I'm
do
eating.
eat. I've eaten out for Thanksgiving. I don't. I think it's for me, and I think I talked about this before. Is that I don't like having the same food
Oh,
from
we talked
for
about it.
Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Yeah, for
yes, yes.
Thanksgiving that I do on Christmas. So
Woo.
um, yeah, it's all good. But I'm traveling. I'm traveling tomorrow or Friday, one of these days. I'm supposed to be in Georgia by now, but work and being exhausted and
Mm.
whatnot, I've not had an opportunity to leave yet. And I'm going to get off here and still kind of work because I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I think that it's coming down towards the end of the year, and so many things have to change over. And my workload has definitely heightened. So I have a lot of deliverables that I'm really trying to do. And I had phone calls all this week, and I'm just tired. I'm literally just tired. I feel a little
Yeah.
run down. So I needed a little bit of, I ain't gonna say me time, but I knew I wasn't fit to just try to drive 9 hours right now.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you listened to your body and to what you needed and just took the time for you to say, you know what? This, if I push myself, I could do it, but I don't need to push myself because there's always tomorrow and I can take the time to do it tomorrow.
Yes. And originally I was going to my mom's house anyway, but
With the,
yeah, we had a loss in the family. So I'm going to Georgia instead. So I figure if I get a while here tomorrow, I will leave, or I'll just get up very early in the morning and head down on Friday. But it's
Mhm.
only like 9 hours, so it's not bad. I could do that in my sleep. I just don't want to do it when I'm sleepy.
Yeah, that's
That's a
hard.
long
It's
time.
hard.
Yeah.
I can't go past 4 hours. I'm done. Put me on the flight.
You
Mm-mm.
know, you know who you sound just like? At least you said 4. I think D said 2. D being her husband,
That is
I
too
think he said
funny.
2. I think he said 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's
no,
funny.
I gotta
If I can get some good sleep, I can do that 9 hours too. And excuse my voice, you guys. I'm coming back from being sick. I was sick from Friday until now. And
Mm,
so when I'm sick I sound like a man. And I already have
you do not sound like a man.
not right now. It's coming back. But when I have I already have a deeper voice in the morning. And so I've been sick, so it's been deep morning voice all day. And it's coming back,
Crazy.
so excuse me. But yeah, I used to work my job I had before I had to drive all day, so I would drive for like 11 hours all day long. And so if I get some sleep, I can do that trip too. I feel you. If I don't get no sleep, I'm dozing. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Don't even. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Well, we want
Well,
everybody to arrive alive.
that part, just be safe no matter, especially if you're traveling. There's so much going on in this world right now. I will definitely, before we bring our guest up in just a second, um, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. And and I say mental health is real, mental health is real. Another shooting in Virginia unnecessarily. You all, if you are feeling some kind of way and feeling some level of aggression, there is help for that.
Yes.
And I'm not talking anger management help. I'm talking understand what the underlying issue is and address that. And if you have a problem with one person, please stop taking it out on a community, because there's just, oh, it's just a lot going on with, and guns. We do want gun control, but we need people control first.
Yes.
And so we can acknowledge that guns do bad things, but it's the people behind it that do the bad things. So I just want us to be safe and protect our babies, because it's happening in schools, it's happening in grocery stores, it's happening in convenience stores, it's happening on the streets. And I think that that's something that we need to stop. So with that being said, we're going to get ready to bring our guest up. Our guest tonight is Miss Danielle Kaplan, who is a speech language pathologist and movement specialist. She grew up in Johannesburg, South Africa. And if you all know, that's one of my favorite places that's near and dear to my heart. I just was there doing a TEDx. And yes, she said, smile at one another for sure. I just did a TEDx in South Africa. She is a she has a research master's in communication of trauma brain injury. Upon immigrating immigrating to Toronto, Canada, with her husband Stephen, she worked in acute teaching hospitals for over 20 years across the neurology, neurosurgery, and spinal injury areas, dealing with cognition, language, and swallowing disorders. I'm going to definitely have some conversations with her. So we're going to go ahead and bring her up. Hi, Danielle.
Hi, Dr. G. Hi, everybody. Nice to be with you.
You
Hello.
as well. You as well. So I want you to tell a little bit more about yourself, because you also have a book. But I definitely have so many questions, especially with swallowing disorders, as my dad had a stroke in February and he went through speech therapy. And what I did not know is that when you do, speech pathologists also do swallowing.
That is correct. It's an area that we became specialized in because the same musculature for speech somewhat is needed for swallowing. So it becomes a really specific area. How is your dad doing? I'm so sorry. That's so hard.
He's doing really great now. He's been in and out the hospital. He's out the hospital now. He's thriving. Because for a while he actually had to be he had a tube. He was being tube fed, and this was months after. I think he fell again, and then it something neurologically affected his appetite and his ability to swallow. So he had to have a tube put in. So the tube is removed. He's back eating food. So that made it, but understanding, in talking to his speech pathologist, understanding what his needs are, it has really been helpful to me kind of understand it. But I never knew that was something that was with speech pathology.
It's interesting because it's such a finely tuned mechanism, but we also realize that eating is such a nurturing thing that we do for our family members. And when somebody can't eat or can't swallow, we as family members feel so helpless. It's something we feel that when people eat, they are getting better. We can nurture them that way. But when they're not, it's a very hard thing to watch someone deprived of that pleasure and that socialization, because eating is very social.
Yes. So your book, I Married a Thrill Seeker.
Yes.
Why?
You know what my mind goes to? I'm like, oh, okay.
I know.
So how did you come up with the name, and can you share what your book is about and what inspired it?
Yep. Well, the truth is I married a thrill seekers. My husband, who is a real adventurous free spirit, likes to thrive on intense challenges, seek adventures, experience these intense sensations, which we would call thrill seeking. And when you are a thrill seeker, you don't look at the risk or the consequences. You just live in the moment and you do what feels good for you, what you thrive on. For him, it was speed, being out in the wilderness. And what he did, so ironically, when I studied my master's, I studied brain injury and the communication, and most of my research clients or patients were actually after motorcycle accidents. When I first met my husband, he had a motorcycle, but it was, that had to go. And for a while, he gave up these passions. But later on, when my children were teenagers, he spontaneously bought himself an adventure motorbike and started doing these adventure trips. And this one was, he drove from Toronto through North America, through British Columbia, through the Yukon to Alaska, and then back. And a solo trip, going on glaciers, on the curves of the mountains, alongside grizzly bears, on rural roads, on his own. And he thrived on that challenge. The further he could go with more speed and more difficult roads, the more exciting it became for him. Wow, I love that song. Yep.
It's
So
so interesting.
yeah, and it's a certain, I didn't realize it when I first met him. I knew he was bold and daring and liked challenges, but I didn't really kind of analyze it until later on when I realized it's kind of brain chemistry. There are certain people who thrive on this sensation seeking and it drives them. And I am the complete opposite. I am cautious. I'm risk adverse. I avoid any situation where there may be risk. So we could
Oh,
not be opposite when it comes to that.
oh wow. So what made you decide to write a book?
So unfortunately, on which happened to be then his last trip, he took a very rural road, a rural highway in the rain at dusk, and he had a terrible accident. His motorbike hit a pothole. He flew up in the air. The bike landed far in the terrain, and he broke his spine. And there he's lying immobile on a very rural road with no one for miles. Inside, no cars, no trucks, and only grizzly bears and wild animals. And so that begins that side of the journey. Some very miraculous things happened at the roadside, and I'll mention one of them. So, and then very miraculous things happened in his medical journey. And he
Okay.
was back twice in the Yukon and then to Vancouver in British Columbia. So I'll give you one interesting thing that happened at the roadside. And all of this kind of got me thinking, this is the craziest story. I need to keep this information. So when he went on his trips, he took with him it's called a spot. It's like a GPS transponder. Normally you should have it on your body, and the function of it was three things. His crazy adventurous friends could follow his website and map his coordinates and watch his trip from afar. He would send me at the end of the day his coordinates and an email saying, I'm okay, not realizing how much anxiety I had every day. And then the third thing was it has a emergency function. It was connected to a emergency response center. This one happened to be in Texas. So if you press a button, it alerts this emergency response center. The thing is, if it's not on your body and the bike is somewhere else, you can't press the button. What happened is he was thrown up in the air, landed on the road, broke his spine so he couldn't move, and he injured his heart. He didn't realize it at the time, but he was fully lucid. The bike flew up in the air because it's like an acceleration and then stops and then up in the air and landed in this very thick terrain about 60 feet from him, and he couldn't see it. This transponder, this spot, was attached to his motorbike on a metal bracket. When the bike hit the ground, some things broke off the bike and spilt around the bike and a little bit onto the road. The spot transponder, this orange red square thing, flew up in the air and landed in his reach. Now, if you think, what are the odds of that in life? That's like winning the lottery. It could have stayed on the bike. It could have tipped 360 degrees anywhere, any distance. It was almost like he was timed, and it flew. He didn't even realize quite how miraculous this was, and it landed, and he reached like this, pressed the button twice, which alerted the emergency responders. Well, what are the odds of that? That's like winning the lottery of life.
It is.
And he's in grizzly bear territory. He's hearing the animals around him. I know. And so that is just one of the most miraculous things that happened. There were more. And like, how do you even explain these things?
So how is he now? And how long ago was this, and how is he now?
So great discussion this is. So he was in hospital for 11 weeks, intensive care, back, step forward, feeding tubes. He was on a thing called ECMO. He actually was given 0% of survival because while in hospital, he developed multi-organ failure. Lungs, kidney, liver, and heart stopped. They were bagging him and they put him on this life support system called ECMO that most people don't come off. It lets your heart and lungs rest, but the outcome is usually not great at all. And so I was faced with this making a quality of life decision. And we've had these discussions, which is really relevant for everyone to have those hard discussions. What would you do if you ever face? You never want to, but who knows? So we had made the pact that if quality of life wasn't good, we need to let us go. That was just our belief system. So I had to make that decision. Do we put him on medical intervention when he really has zero chance of survival? And if he does go on it, his outcome is going to be so poor. So I had to weigh this up, and that's part of the story is how do you make that kind of decision? And you have children and you have everybody telling me save Stephen, and I'm saying no, didn't want to. He said let me go if something, whatever. So we moved forward 11 years, and he rose so high. I kept saying he cycled. He had multiple surgeries and backwards and forwards, but he worked so hard, and we all worked to the point that he was CEO of a huge skincare. I don't know if you've heard of The Ordinary skincare, a global beauty company of 1,400 employees worldwide.
Wow.
So he went from being unable to, he had terrible post-traumatic stress disorder. He couldn't move. He was scared of everything. He didn't know how to brush his teeth, hold a cup. And he eventually got to a point where he is back on a bicycle, not a motorbike, riding his scooter around the city, which I like, oh, no. Drives his car, his four wheels, but with speed along curves. And I just think you can't take the thrill out of the Seeker, but he is a little bit more moderate, a little bit more limited, but he rose very high with having zero odds of survival.
Wow. That is a miracle. Wow. I mean, like so many times when you've been speaking, I literally lose my breath. Like,
I know. It is that. Honestly, it is that. And you mentioned I have a book. I wrote the book, and actually here is the book. It's just come out.
Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
Pretty good there. I wrote the book, interestingly, because when I was in Vancouver, my children were working at a summer camp. And as a mother, I thought, I'm not bringing them to see their father like this. I got to protect them. They've got to have a good summer, which is partly an insane way of thinking because this was our reality. But my kids weren't with me, even though we communicated the whole way. And Stephen obviously wasn't aware of anything. So I kept all the messages, all the texts, all the Facebook, every bit of information. And also I had family in South Africa and all around the world. And I just kept emailing it to myself. So I had all this information. And I thought, for sure, one day Stephen and Josh and Gabby, my children, would want to read it. How naive was I? Why would they ever want to know all these terrible things? I had the information. And then a lot of the doctors and the people along the way said, that Yukon guy, that is a crazy story. That is a book. That is a story. And one of the doctors even said, oh my God, that's worthy of a movie. Who will play Stephen? And so my brain was like, you know what? Maybe I should write this. I started, and there's a book.
When you were talking about your husband, when you started talking about him, the show, I don't know if you saw it, it's called Edge of Earth. And it's all about all of these individuals. I'm talking about these very high adrenaline, thrill-seeking type of athletes that try these extremely dangerous feats, like climbing the highest of the highest mountains and like kayaking off of high waterfalls, and they fall off the cliff. I was like,
I know, it's extreme.
Very extreme, yeah. So when
I watched the mountain climbers, and he is one of those. He used to be an ultra marathon runner, so he's got it in him to do extreme things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Also,
It's scary to watch those shows because your heart just races.
I'm like,
I
oh
know.
my
You're like,
God.
oh, no. I know.
When I was in school, when I was in my undergrad, I was enrolled in a dual program, a BS with a company MS. So I wanted to be a speech and
Okay.
language pathologist. Well, I entered my first class, speech and anatomy of the speech, language, and hearing mechanisms. I got an A in the class, but speech and language pathology was not what I thought a speech pathologist was. So I did well enough to pass the class. All right. Can I change majors,
Next,
please?
moving on.
This is
Moving on.
not what I wanted to do.
I know. You know, the lucky thing for my husband, I was so well trained because I was also an audiologist and a speech pathologist, and I'd worked in spinal, head injury, brain injury, that I actually became his therapist and his clinician. And I became his advocate, his rational voice, his GPS. And then he fired me. When he was done, he was like, you know, I was his wife, and here I am taking care of people, and he was done.
Oh my
Not to
God.
say he didn't appreciate it, but there was a point where he said, okay, you're my wife now.
Was it
Yes.
challenging for you too? It's almost like because this is your career, this is your profession, this is what you do every day, day in and day out, and then to have your husband, so you're the kind of like the clinical person trying to, I don't want to say nurse him back to health, but help him develop his normal level of functioning. Was that frustrating for you? Did you feel helpless and hopeless? Like, yes.
Actually, I love that question because it saved me. You know what I did? I went into clinical mode. It became my coping mechanism and it became my defense mechanism. So in essence, he became my patient, which eventually he did not love. But I learned I love what you were saying because it raises an interesting thing. I knew how to be a great caregiver in a hospital. I had seen, and I'm sure you saw that with your dad, I had seen patients sitting in bed in wet beds with, unfortunately, diapers that were not clean. I saw patients whose mouths were dirty. I saw patients whose beds weren't comfortable. And so I knew exactly what to do. I became fastidious. I never allowed his bed. I was a hoarder of linen. I would steal the shampoo like caps, because when he was so bad he couldn't move, so I would shampoo his hair. And if there wasn't one on the unit, I would find one on another unit and hoard it. I would brush his teeth, and when he complained, I loved it because it meant he was already active enough to complain. I shaved. I made sure that I put up pictures, which is such a good caregiving tip, of him before the accident. So the staff could relate to him as a person. As a strong, handsome, active man with his family and children, so that they weren't relating to this person in a blue gown who wasn't responsive, but they really saw the real person behind this sick individual. So I think having all this knowledge in how to be a great caregiver in a hospital, I helped keep his dignity. Unfortunately, I always say when you go into hospital, you leave your dignity at the door. So I tried as best as I could to keep his dignity as I could.
He's very blessed to have you.
Exactly.
I tell him that all the time.
I hope he's listening.
Yeah. So no, I completely understand with you, being a caregiver and having to go above and beyond to actually advocate. I know, and I think this is really the first time I'm sharing this much information about my dad's stroke, that I was his power of attorney. I advocated for him. I made sure that he was cleaned up. If he had an accident, don't just put something else on him. I was stripping his bed. I sat with my dad for 3 months. And the level of care that he got because I was on them, I think is big on his outcome. The other thing, and I don't know, like when tragedies happen and things happen especially with health, the hospitals are very quick to give you physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. So when my dad had his stroke, it was very traumatic because he fell. And I asked them about mental health therapy, and they did not have it. And so I just started, I have a whole, my community, and I found a PTSD and trauma therapist, and he had therapy twice a week for almost a whole 3 months I was there, from the time he went in the hospital, because PTSD sets in and it is so real. And that was probably a success for his outcome when it came to his mental health, because it gave him an outlet to vent to. He got to, at first I sat in because I wanted to make sure that the relationship was going well, because my dad cried a whole lot because it was so traumatic for him. But in the end, one of the things that I gave him was what the hospital did not. And I don't know if anybody is a hospital administrator, that's something that needs to absolutely change, because why treat PTSD after the fact when they should be treating it along with his other therapies that they're going through?
Dr. G, you raised some wonderful messages. The first one is that every patient needs an advocate, because if they can't advocate on their own behalf, which most people can't, they need someone to help them navigate through the medical system. Yes. So even on a day-to-day and also in the broader picture. And so you were so fortunate. Your dad was so fortunate he had you. And Stephen was incredibly fortunate, because I was an advocate to be reckoned with. I was not letting anyone do anything that was to his detriment. And I was so vigilant. And the other message you raised, which, sorry, I interrupted you there. Yeah, advocacy is so important. The other thing is post-traumatic stress disorder and mental health are overlooked, particularly when somebody is ill. And I even was faced with that when I was saying Stephen's got blah, blah, blah. And they'd say, you know what, he's far too sick, his medical issues. And I'm like, no, that is part of his recovery, and you have to address it early on. You need good social workers, you need good psychologists, you need good support workers to help. And that's really early on. So I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to talk with you and for you to share the message too, how we need to help anyone who's in hospital by having an advocate and by definitely dealing with mental health. Stephen had major mental health issues. He had psychosis, he had delusions. ICU, you get delusional in the ICU. The night, day, the lights, the medications, and he was on this life support. And then he had terrible post-traumatic stress disorder from everything, as did your dad. So we have to address those things for better outcomes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Louisa.
No, what I was going to say was, can we also put out there that PTSD is not the same for everyone? It does not have the same look. Yes. I experienced it myself, and I didn't even know I was experiencing it. And even any type of tragedy, trauma, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, can cause PTSD. And so I'm so grateful that you guys were there for them, because not everyone looks the same.
I totally agree with you. In fact, I experienced it myself, but in a totally different way.
Right.
I went into having this anxiety of something going wrong, of this anticipatory anxiety. So I was living my life on autopilot, waiting for the next disaster. And I faced that for therapy. So you're so right. It has a different face. It might have the same umbrella name, but it presents in such different ways in everybody.
Definitely does. What I was going to say was, I know the hospital systems, they're so focused on like integrative medicine. Like they have the speech and language pathologist, they have the PT, OT, but they always forget us therapists over here. And it's like, you know what? I have just gone from my functional life where I'm independent, I'm not bedridden, I don't have all of these people intrusively in my life, to now I feel like an invalid, or I'm asking for help. And that transition from being super independent to having to ask people to help you go to the restroom, is major. And so implementing those individuals who can help them navigate the emotional transition through that process early on versus allowing it to sit, okay, now I'm healed. Do I just automatically go back to my life? No, because my entire cognition and how I view life has changed. And so
absolutely.
allowing us to get it early on, I think, is the best case. So hospital systems and other systems that deal with long-term care, they really need to think about, when we say integrative, are you really integrative? Have you integrated all of the important parts of the system actually in the patient's care?
Oh,
Correct.
absolutely. I mean, you just raised the best. We have to look at the whole person. We have to bring in all the thoughts and therapy and mental health. And you're right, it's such a huge adjustment from being an independent individual to someone who is totally dependent.
Right.
Oh yeah. I think when the blessing that my dad got with me, because I was one of those, I was in the hospital, I was like you, I was on their ass about everything. Because because if I said, hey, his bed needs to be changed because he had an accident and it didn't happen right off, I wasn't calling you that many more times. When he got up, because I would say he needs to go to the bathroom, I would strip his bed, I would clean it, and then I would go to the front desk and say, oh, I need some sheets for his bed. Well, we'll be in there. Just give them to me.
I'll do it.
And I would take care of this. And then I had to explain to them, because when I became his power of attorney, I'm facilitating between, because my dad's a veteran, from VA to Medicare to TRICARE. So I'm navigating all three of the medical things. And I let them know, you will never talk above my head, because sometimes you don't know who you're talking to. I cared about behavioral health because I have a bachelor's in psychology. That's how I started my career. My master's is in health service administration.
So you're so
and they did not.
They thought they were about to play today.
They didn't. And so there was nothing that I did not understand about the system. But not everybody has that. And when you talk about management, I have a doctorate in management, and I specialize in organizational development and change. So I'm asking questions from a technical standpoint. So I was one of those, and I'm a prior service. I'm prior service. I'm an Army medic, so I know medical, and I know. So for me, understanding what my dad needed and how to take care of him, and I was like, you know what? Because I'm going to make sure he got exactly what he wanted, because he was in one of the worst hospitals that had a negative reputation. But I can give them 5 stars because of how good they treated my dad. That was because the way that I advocated. And that is so important. So it's great that, one, you had the clinical experience to take care of your husband and knew the things that he needed to get better. And if you look at where he's at now, I mean, he's really got to give a lot of thanks to your advocacy and your consistency in taking care of him.
I totally agree. I think having an advocate alters the outcome. You have a much better outcome. I also learned something else, and I think from being on the other side, having worked, I learned how to respectfully navigate the system. So I was always thoughtful, always kind, always respectful of the staff, and they treated me well too. So I think that's another way. I think we can be very emotional in critical situations, but you have to respect that people are doing their jobs, and most of them doing it the best they can. And so if you're kind and respectful and thoughtful back, you hopefully get treated the same way. So there are a lot of skills one needs to be a good advocate.
Oh, of course. They loved me. And before I even left, I gave them flowers, or I gave them an edible arrangement. I sent it to the front desk and just said, thank you for taking such good care of my dad. But I was one, it got a little crazy with other family members, calling the staff names and all that. And so, it was real bad. And I always say, if you really want his care to be on the upper side of things, you have to be able to have grace. If things did not get done, I understand hospitals are busy. I'm just going to do it myself. And that was the way. And I did not complain, not once. I just said, nothing else. I'm going to make sure my dad's good, because I didn't care about anybody else. I cared about the well-being of my dad 100% of the time. And if it meant that I had to step in and do things to help out, because I've been in a hospital setting, where there's a ton of things moving and they're responding And sometimes they're short staffed, people call out. But at the end of the day, family members have to understand their role in the caregiving as well. So
Yes.
True. That's true.
I
Yes.
definitely agree.
You're part of the team.
Right. Yes, you have to become part of the team in order for somebody's health and healing to take place.
When my
And I
dad
just,
was in, I was
no,
gonna say
go
my
ahead.
dad
Go
had
ahead.
COVID.
Go ahead.
I think you all knew that he was in ICU.
Yeah.
I was all the way in Orlando navigating him. I had to go down there and see him, but they wouldn't let you on the COVID floor. So when I called the nurses, I made sure I was nice. My dad was being difficult. He did not want to take the medication that they was giving him until I told him it was okay. If you get a good alliance, nurses are going to want to help the families that are easier. If you are difficult for them, they're not going to want to call you back. They're not going to want to give you information. So the best thing that you can do for your loved one is to be open and communicate, but communicate effectively with the nursing and the doctor staff. Sometimes, yeah, you may have to get a little bit stern, but 9 times out of 10, if emotions are high when our loved ones are in the hospital, if you can regulate your own emotions, because at the end of the day, the goal is to get the best care for your loved one. So have a conversation with them, be respectful, because you're not the only family member with a loved one in the hospital. They have 30 other patients that they're worrying about too. So if you're calling 10 times a day, your call might get overlooked. And we're going to go to the next person because we haven't spoken to them yet today. So that's just one thing, just to be mindful about that.
And the
Yeah.
nurses of all
Yeah.
things, you have to treat them like your best friends because they work more with your patient, your family than the doctors. The doctors come
yes.
in, let me see the chart. Nurse, what did you see?
Yep.
They
Yep.
go
Yeah.
into evaluate. You get real good with the nurses and you can get anything you need.
That's true.
Yes,
And you
Danielle.
sometimes best to select someone as the one person representing the family so that not
Exactly.
everybody is charging on the staff. And
Yeah.
Dr. Louise, when you said something during COVID, it broke my heart during this health crisis because I realized how involved I was in Steve's care. And when you hear all those stories of people being all alone without their family members, it broke my heart because I just realized like how people need the love and support of a family member to help them through critical illness.
Yeah.
So Danielle, I have a question for you, and then we'll find out where we can get your book and all of that. When Stephen was going through all of those things, did you get therapy for yourself during this time? Because that had to be very traumatic emotionally, knowing that he had zero chance of living at the time. So how was that transition for you mentally, and did you get therapy for that?
So for that whole period of time, I think I was on autopilot. I was this crazy advocate, vigilant. In fact, beforehand, I couldn't remember a phone number. And during, I could tell you his vital signs, his liver enzyme levels, his everything had just stored it in my head. So I was on this like overdrive vigilance. Got him through, got him home because we had to get home from Vancouver. We were there, it was Yukon, then Vancouver for 5 weeks, then to our hospital here in Toronto. And only after he was back home and starting to develop some normality in his life that I started to, I won't say fall apart because I helped myself together, but realized I needed help. So I went to see a behavioral psychiatrist and I needed to vent. I was so angry with him because this wasn't an accident. This was taking a risk. And when you take risk, there are consequences. And it impacted on our whole family, not just me and my children, but my parents, his siblings. Everybody was devastated. And friends, a whole community came out to, as you said, community. The whole community came out to support us, from giving meals to everything. So I went for help because I needed to vent how angry I was, how sad I was, how cheated I felt, all the emotions. And then I worked through it as best as I could. And then we went on, and then Steve went through a bad period where he actually almost wanted to forget about the accident and was telling everyone he was perfect despite having lung injury, spine injury still, and other issues and needing heart surgery. So I went back for help. And my psychiatrist, it was a different one, helped me understand what thrill-seeking, sensation-seeking behavior was. Helped me understand that I'd been living on autopilot. I needed to get off that. Helped me understand living in the moment and riding the wave and not waiting for the next disaster, but enjoying the current one. So yeah, I did. And it
Wow,
helped.
that is that's so commendable, and thank you for sharing that too, because that a lot of people don't realize that caregivers need therapy as well, because it's a transition for the whole family. So where can everybody get your books? Where can everybody follow you at?
Okay, so exciting. So I can't believe it, but here I have the tangible book of our crazy story. And so even though we've discussed it, honestly, it doesn't even touch on the crazy journey on the road and the medical journey. And we go full cycle with a kind of a surprise ending. We go and visit the trucker who found him. So there's a whole story to that. So my book is available on Amazon.com. It's available in bookstores and Barnes and Noble. It's available in Target, in Walmart, in the US. In Canada, it's on also Amazon and different bookstores. But I actually have a website, which is super cool because the website has photos of not only of Steve's trip, which are like National Geographic, amazing photographs of the glaciers and the bears that he saw, but it also has the hard story in photos of the book. I somehow took photos all along the way. I have no idea what made me. So we've got photos of the whole journey. And then the trip back to go visit the truck driver 4 years later. And he told us such an incredible story that is beyond belief. He found Stephen, and it's so emotional. And then where are we now in my little family now? So the website is www.imarriedathrillseeker.com. So it's the title of the book. So the title of the book is I Married a Thrill Seeker. The website is www.imarriedathrillseeker.com. And it gives where the book's available. It gives, thank you for putting that on. It gives a bit of my bio. It gives photographs. It gives, and as we get the media, so whenever you upload this, it will go onto the website. So,
all right.
yeah,
Awesome.
so it's all exciting this. So I'm so, this has been a fabulous discussion and such a good learning experience for all of us, for me to hear what you guys are sharing and for anyone else, because unfortunately we all are faced at some point with someone who lands up in hospital. And so the lessons are the same lessons, despite the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on, hanging out with us, and sharing your story. It's remarkable. I think it is such a great thing to hear that the outcome turned out in a very miraculous way. And it should encourage people that, doctors can say one thing, but the higher powers have something else. And there's life after trauma that's significant. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing that.
Thank you. This has been a wonderful opportunity for me, and I've enjoyed talking to all of you.
Thank you so much. All right, have a great. Well, I don't know what you all celebrate, but
we just had Thanksgiving. The Canadian Thanksgiving is before the American one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll have happy Thanksgiving. Yes, the Giving Thanks Day, and have a great rest of the week and great weekend ahead.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Oh, that was amazing. It's like breathtaking, take your breath away type of stories that, kind of scares you, but at the same time makes you aware of different things. So we appreciate having her come on. Okay. So I hope you all have a really great Thanksgiving. Louisa, where can everybody find you at and connect with you?
You can find me at the Blue Phoenix Hills everywhere. Also, I wanted to add, we were talking about caregivers. Remember that caregivers need care too.
They do.
I agree. Dr. Lewis, where can everybody find you? Even though you barely can remember your own name these days.
That stumble. I'm not used to it. See, I just lost my train of thought. They can find me on all social media platforms at The Girlfriend Therapist. Sex Unveiled. If you want to get spicy for, the holidays, get some good gifts. If you like, so Sex SEXD Unveiled on Instagram. And so, yeah, you can check me out there.
And the Noir Center.
Yes, there too.
All right. You can
be there.
I know you can connect with me on all social media platforms at IAMDRPGURLEY. I am Dr. P. Gurley. You can also follow my Brown Girl, Brown Boy book series at Brown Girl, Brown Boy series. The BGBB Kids Red Carpet is where you can follow and take part in my Kids Red Carpet book tour and literacy festival. Herspiration Happy Hour. You can find us on all social media platforms at Herspiration Happy Hour. Except for on Twitter, it's Herspiration HH. We have one more episode before we end season 5. That is next week. And I'm telling y'all, season 6 is going to be so many different things coming up because we do go on hiatus in December. We all deserve a break because I think mental health is important. So as we do these, we love our audience and we love our listeners and viewers. But we, like you, sometimes you have to take a break away because we are dedicated to come here every Wednesday to bring you all inspiring stories and to just have some fun cocktails and conversations. So, ladies, is there anything else that you want to share regarding this topic? Look at here. I got Siri talking to me and I ain't even talking to her.
See, Siri, mine and everybody's business. Well, since she got some Siri, we have to shout out Tina Turner. Her birthday is on the 26th, and we will not be live. So happy early birthday, Madam Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Yes. For sure. Ladies, it has been such a pleasure. I am thankful for all of the time that you all have put into growing this brand with me. I am thankful for our friendship. I am thankful for our sisterhood, minus my red candy apple that I didn't get, but that's a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother thing. But I'm seriously, I am grateful for, just the relationships that we've been able to curate being a part of this. And I am grateful for all of our listeners and viewers and guests who have stepped up to share some of the most intimate details of their life. And, we never, and I certainly never take that for granted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You all happy day of thanks and be safe out here, be merry, be vigilant, and pay attention to your surroundings and speak up if you have to, but also safety first.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. So have a great one. See you next Wednesday on our final episode for the season.
Cheers.